Man, oh man. Sis, you live? We live?
We live, sis.
We live, sis. Oh, family, we starting off with that good old Geechee boy around here today, boy. I tell you. How you feeling today?
I feel great. How are you feeling? Back in the house again.
I know, right? We are definitely back in this house again. I'm gonna pause that old Geechee boy for a second. We are up in here live.
I think you should play that a little bit more. I don't know. That's just me. That's just
all
me.
Right. I'm gonna just keep it low just a little bit. But it's
right.
It's a pleasure to be up in the building with you from the days of BOK.
Yes, rocking the house.
I know. Rocking the house. It's been fun. And so we about to have ourselves a good old time today. I don't know what we're gonna call this, village vibes, community live. What you want to call it?
Let's see here. I think I'm feeling the vibes.
Gonna do village vibes?
Let's go with village vibes.
Village vibes. Okay.
You know, I'm feeling the vibes. Village vibes.
Oh, hey, Unc. I'm so glad to see that you joined us live. I'm so glad that you're well. You know, I've been asking about you. So the one and only Cliff Dugar has joined the building. We appreciate you. I know, right? Yeah, so we appreciate you. We appreciate Village Rising for having this conversation series. Because of course, with the mindset, the great mind of Wayne and Cliff of Village Rising Production, they still wanted to have the conversation. So COVID knocked out the concert series. And so now they're just like, no, we still got to keep talking. So this is what we're doing. So now we have the conversation series live. So this is what we're doing right now. Bam. Right.
Yes.
So
in the building, I just had to send a link to my dad because he's trying to get on. So we're good though. We may be over before he gets here, but
so this is your favorite Gullah girl right here, Kyndra Joy, with the one and only MC. I know. So we send a big shout out to Jazz Kendall out there, who's the VR producer, and so we love him so much. With On the Move, and so today, y'all, we're gonna be talking about culture. So it's culture, all that, and more. And so we can also say, yeah, we could say culture, all that, and more. You know, we have the doctor.
I mean, you know, but you know, here's the part about culture: doctor or no or none, right? It's still all that because we about to make some groceries. You heard me.
That's that sip New Orleans talk she got going on right now. About to make some growth, no type of nothing, just straight sip. So as we talk about culture, let's talk about Mississippi culture. That's just
right. It's like Missy Orleans, or you know, Orleans Sippy. That's what it is. I'm Orleans Sippy.
I don't know what you're calling it, but it must stop. It must.
You know you love it.
It got to.
You know you love it. You know you love it.
I know, right? I do love it. So we're gonna be hitting up the culture. So everybody's been asking about like the Gullah Geechee culture, and then we wanted to also talk about like there are different types of culture. So I usually talk about like the ethnic piece of it, right? You know, you have a lot of people who focus on Mardi Gras Indian culture. Then you have the city of New Orleans culture. Then you have the musicians culture. Then you have Black culture. Then you got African American culture. You got all these different types of cultures, but we also have like spiritual culture, right? So you got spiritual culture, the culture of how people deal in their family, kind of on IE traditions, right? So you got all these things that we're talking about under this beautiful word of culture, and that's what we're talking about today. So I'm gonna start off with the one and only, the intuitive. She is the intuitive consultant, right? Talking about the type of culture she works with. So let's talk about why you call yourself the intuitive consultant.
Oh, that's a great question. You know, part of it's for me, it's about owning who you are and all parts of who you are.
Yeah.
And intuition is a form of knowing, right? And wherever that, your sixth sense, that thing that just says what you know, and maybe you didn't study it in school or got it from the streets, you just know it. And so when you take that and you think about our culture, it really reminded me of my grandfather, the Reverend Richard Burns. He was a farmer.
Richard Burns.
Reverend Richard G. Burns.
He sounds holy.
He was holy. Oh my goodness.
Was he Kojic? He must have been Kojic. Was he Kojic?
He wasn't Kojic, but he was a Freemason. He was a farmer from Mississippi. His middle initial is G for Golden. So it was Reverend Richard Golden Burns, right? Right. So he was a farmer, right? So my grandfather spent most of his time connecting with the land. And when you connect with land in that way, there's going to be messages you receive that the earth is going to give you. And it may be hard to explain it to people, but just touching and working with the land. And then on Sundays, he would go preach. So then there was a connection to God and Yeshua, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And so there's information that you receive from there. So he was getting it both ways, right? The earth and the heavens. Right?
That's straight up.
And so there was some knowledge that you receive that it's hard to explain, when you talk about my connection or people's connection with God. You got to be connected to something. And so it's really intuition. I call it invisible information.
Got you.
Right. So it's that invisible information that is passed through to you that gives you a knowing about something and that helps you to navigate. And so that is why I call myself the intuitive consultant, is because I've been seeing things and connecting things in this way, since a little child. And when you're growing up, you just don't know, right? You don't why I see them people? Why I see something? How I know this person was about to pass away? How you know? And our ancestors, we think about our elders, when they would say, maybe my knee hurt, it's going to rain today.
Yeah.
Or, take that salt and, throw it behind your back. That's part of our culture. That's part of our knowing. And I'm just taking that culture and manifesting it into who I am.
Got you.
Can y'all not hear me?
Tie it all together. So you kind of tie it all together for it to be something that can be used for Gullah Geechee culture, right? In our, it's a connection to, it's that whole mind, body, spirit, like what you're talking about, right? And so you see it in New Orleans culture. You see it in, because the direct culture here is it's like a rhythm, right? It's like a a Gullah know they a Gullah, like a New Orleanian know they a New Orleanian. It's just so it just kind of flows through your body. And so the thing that we want to talk about is how we celebrate that and how we can use culture to even push us even further in community, because it's kind of we've been in the house for how long now? For a year. Everybody's been inside.
It's gonna be a year for me, March 15th. Don't ask me how I know that.
And so how can we use this intuitive piece of ourselves, right, to sustain ourselves and be able to give that light? Because that intuitive piece for us is light. Light that we can give, we feed off of each other's light. And when we don't have that particular light within us, that thing that we call culture, or that thing that pushes us forward, the thing that the ancestors were able to like rely on all the way through and through, it's no longer there. And so how can we, as you as an intuitive consultant, what are some of the things that we possibly can do as a community to begin to embrace what a lot of people be like, oh, that's just them people, you know, or that's just, because my mama be like, early on, before I started studying, my mom be like, I'm black. I'm not no Gullah. I ain't no, you know, she's like, I'm just black. My mama black, my daddy black, you know? And it's like, how do we get that embracing again of what is so beautiful and what has pushed us for so many years to be great and unique and colorful and bright and just creative? What are some of your suggestions?
Well, I think, you know, one of the things you think about 2020 has helped us is it has awakened a lot of people. So people have a lot of time to start to, you know, when you can't go to the things where you get these, you know, this knowing or outlets from, and you have to go inward, you learn a lot of things about yourself and your culture, right? So there isn't that church building you can go into, or your job, or Mardi Gras, or Second Line, and all the ways in which, especially here in New Orleans, we show up for culture. So you're spending a lot of time by yourself or with your pod. And so I believe last year for a lot of people, they've awakened. And so with that, I think people are less likely to start rolling their eyes, right? Like, you know, 2 years ago, they'd be like, a tutor, what? Girl, whatever. Now they're like, like,
they're trying to figure it out, right? And
what that is. So stay open to learning. Trust yourself. Trust that inner voice. You know, I teach a class, and one of the things I talk about, or I have an apprenticeship, is learning to trust yourself, right? Because when we're connecting with, you know, sometimes we struggle connecting with our ancestors. But yet, some of us don't struggle connecting with God. And these are still invisible sources.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So it is and then there are people who struggle connecting with God, right? Because I don't see a thing, I can't connect with a thing. So learning to trust yourself, learning to trust these voices, or this you may not hear it like someone standing next to you, but you hear the internal voice, right? Some people say, oh, it's just myself talking to myself. Well, sometimes it's not, right? And, you know, and when you can pay attention and listen to it and trust yourself that it is okay to try some new things. It's okay to start a new skill, because I think a lot of people learn that, right? I can pivot, I can do this, I can figure out how to show the culture inwardly, that we so expect outwardly. Okay. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I don't want you to go too deep, because you know we on the book of the face. So we we on the book of the face.
I was about to take us into the well.
Yeah, don't take me into the well, baby. Down no rabbit hole, nothing like that I can't get out of. You heard me on that? Don't do me that.
I'll bring you back out. But I'm gonna stay here.
But what I wanted to touch on, because you said something that was really cool, because now we're jumping into like a spiritual culture, right? And like the spiritual culture of us. I know that being raised in Charleston, South Carolina, you know,
South Carolina.
I know, like I was raised United Methodist, right? And even, you know, when we start studying history, when our ancestors were enslaved, and how the Episcopalian, they brought like slave masters brought in the Episcopalian and the United Methodist pastors or ministers to try to convert. The only thing it ended up doing for us was just strengthening what we already knew that was within us. But it was like a what we called it, like a camouflage, right?
Right.
As in when we start looking at like the Catholic system and how that looks, and you know Yoruba, you know, and Ifa, like, and all the different deities. And so it's just all of these amazing things that we know as a culture that has brought us to an amazing place, right? That people still don't want to embrace. I guess my question to you, in looking at it from this perspective, is like, we have a lot as African Americans and Black folk, you know, Negro.
Identify.
Yeah, whatever you are there. Mama Jen usually say Negro. That's KNEE GRO, Negro. Big up to Mama Jen. Community.
Yes, Mama Jen. And shout out to my nephew Jeremy that's watching.
Yeah. So like for us, for individual, and I'll say us because I'm a minister as well. And so for people who struggle with spirituality, you know, and even though Christianity is spirituality, there is a big religious piece of it that people just can't seem to merge together, which I kind of find weird in a sense, because we believe in a God that we don't see, you know what I'm saying? And like we act out of faith. And so how far-fetched is that? You know what I'm saying? To actually, you know, to believe. And so what do you tell people who are just like, you know, spiritual culture is not relevant?
Me, well, I probably don't say too much to those people, but no, seriously, everybody got to start somewhere, right? Because spiritual culture is dance culture. Spiritual culture is food culture. Spiritual culture is all of those things. Yeah. And I think, you know, you make this point about the difference between spirituality and religion, right? Spirituality is that connection that it doesn't matter who's, religion is like the house. It doesn't matter which house I'm sitting in, I am still going to be connected to spirituality, right? Yeah. So let's say that's culture. Spirituality is culture. Then religion is which culture? Are we talking about the Gullah Geechee culture, the New Orleans culture, the Mississippi culture, the you know, Black folks culture? So religion is, you know, the location, so to speak, or the house, but the spirituality is the culture. And you just can't take that away. That's who you are. That makes up who you are. Yeah. And then talk about integration. I think when it comes to spirituality and religion, the problem with the integration is because religion has been used as a way to objectify Black folks, to, you know, slave master use it as a form of control. But there is something beautiful about some of our religious customs and culture and practices. If you watch that special on PBS, you know, the Black Church, it, you know, it's something about those hymns and those songs. And when the preacher goes, and, you know, and move you on up to another place, you know, it's something about that. It still is, you know, but you know what it is? And a good friend of my friend Michelle and I were talking, and it's like, you know how when we do meditation and mindfulness, right? And we're on those different, you see like the different frequencies. If you ever pay attention, right, to like the frequencies and the meditation and mindfulness thing, and what the organ is doing, it's the
like it's all one, but just blows my mind, right? And so when you hear that, it's like a, and it's just all these different chords because we operate off of a universal tone anyway, right? So the right? When we go, that's the universal vibration of the earth, right? That's what that's why when we meditate, or when some people meditate, they focus on a particular thing or they focus on a particular chant, but it's just, and that's why it moves you in a different space, right? You get like when you hear them different key changes and then something hits you, they be like, bam, and then they start running in the church. It's the spirit.
Oh my gosh, we can say so much around this. Think back to my grandfather, when you talk about the universal frequency, the earth's tone is that you standing on the earth, you working with that earth, and that is coming through you. And then you go to church and you connect in that way, and that is coming from, and that is coming up. I mean, you can't help but take it to another place.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk spiritual into the new age, right? Because folks get, those who aren't in the spiritual, but you subscribe to understanding dimensions. Well, the fifth dimension is where, we say it's our Christ consciousness, our connection to something higher than ourselves. And so music is a way to get us there, because we can't get there on these low vibrations. These low vibrations ain't gonna get us there. So we got to get something that's gonna elevate us up to get into, so we can connect with. Don't let me preach up in here.
You cutting up today, sis. I can't take it. I feel the like somebody about to take off. But it's what I really love about that whole connection that you're talking about, even with the music, is that even when our ancestors were in like the fields, right? And it was like it was like when we do like ring shouts or whatever, or even when we're something around and we're doing the stumping with the stick, right? Doing the rhythm. It's the vibration, right? That comes to your feet, that you feel it with the not a bass, not no drum, not no drums. It's just a pounding that you feel, and then that energy, it just like shifts, and you're just like, so it's truly a culture that you have to be able to like, and I think that's why some people are afraid of it, because they don't understand it. Like they don't understand why their body is feeling the way that it's feeling.
Right.
Like we are all direct like extensions, like of we can't avoid it. Up and down. It's like you can't avoid it.
Up and down.
Your feet, that's why we got grounding, right? That's why they tell you to cover your head when that's why, various cultures and religions, they cover their head, but it's their crown. There's it's the direct I can't. I'm done.
It's your antenna. I can call it, we can go through the rainbow of names. We gonna find a name that you register with, and then you're gonna realize it's all the same. So I could really call myself the cultural consultant. I can say intuitive is cultural, right? And so that idea of the music, the Gullah Geechee has its own sound, right? New Orleans has its own sound. Mississippi has its own sound, but then those sounds start to come together, But you take New Orleans, for instance, the second line, that music, that ability to, express yourself. There is no right or wrong to it. You just, it's movement. It's dance, it's feeling. And when you see somebody go get it, oh my gosh, they're in another realm.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a completely another realm. And you think about our ancestors that gathered at Congo Square. The ancestors came to party and to talk and to converse and to drink and to sell items. When you think about them and that holy ground and that space. So when you walk into even some of these certain spaces, you're going to feel a certain thing.
Yeah.
When my grandfather left the fields and went and sold, you know, he was a farmer, so he sold what he grew. Yeah. The community. There is, you know, there's a meeting space that come together. So all these folks come together and they get to talking, and that talking has its own cadence to it. And they get to understanding, and next thing you know, 2 or 3 gather, you know, spirit of the, well, anyway, I ain't going to church. I ain't taking church. I ain't going to church.
I think we've already been to church. That's what I think right now. I think we've already been to church, and I think what we're talking about, and hopefully individuals who are just listening will be able to kind of remember what it feels like when you have that engagement, because usually when you go to a church, and church can be anything.
Yes,
right?
Church can be anything.
Church can be any, and so you have to be mindful how you say that as well, because, you know, I don't think I'll tell my pastor church will be anything, you know, but it's how we. I'll
tell Pastor D. I'll tell you, I love you.
I'm not telling her that. I'm gonna let you still. I'm gonna just be like, I'm gonna be behind you like that. That's how. But that's how I'm gonna do. I ain't with her, Pastor D. I ain't with her. But it can really be anything. And for a lot of musicians, right? Church is the stage, right?
Yes.
For a lot of singers, right? Like when I used to grab the mic and start singing, it was a space that only, you know what I'm saying? Like you just, it's a sense of like whatever that alignment is, you know, it's just a space that's just freeing. And I think for a lot of people, they've never felt that freedom.
Yeah.
That type of culture and the purpose of why we should have it or embrace it, right? Because it's always been, and it will never go away. Even when we have closed our eyes, that culture, space, that freedom, that light, and people will remain there. The question is, how do we get our community to embrace it and remember? It's almost like remembering who you are. It's like, you know, how do you remember
that's the part.
who you are?
I think that's the part, is remembering who you are. Why do I like this? Why do I do this? Sometimes you're going to have to do some research. Sometimes, you know, this idea about keeping an open mind, I keep saying this because we hear, you know, I was talking to someone who said, I don't do ancestor altars. I don't talk to me about no ancestor altar. That's, you know, that paganism, whatever, right?
Wow.
We talk about rituals, and when you cook a meal that your mom cooked or your grandmother cooked, that's a ritual. You're honoring that person that has gone on before you in that way.
Yeah.
If you're living in their house,
memory. Yeah.
If you're driving their car, if you still spending their money, if you put on their clothes, if you wear your hair the same way, you're honoring the memory of the person who has gone on before you. And you engage in more rituals than you realize. You get together to watch the Saints game every Sunday. You go to, you know, a bar that you go and have drinks with your friends. That, you know, but you do it every, you know, a certain set of time. That ritual is there. And so what we got to do is we have to get back to trying to get away from feeding, you know, getting fed. Like, you can be fed other people's culture and just accept it without questioning it. And I think we really need to go back to understanding our culture. And understanding our culture, read a book, watch some movies, talk to the people, talk to your elders. They are the holders and the keepers. Meditate, pray.
Girl, you got me tripping today.
Go out in nature and sit for a minute.
Yeah.
Go sit by a tree. Go walk by some water. I'm gonna take Psalm 23 on you. Do Psalm 23 for a second. Go and get some rest. Be part of the nap ministry.
Hey, that's a beautiful ministry, by the way. I love to participate in that nap ministry. I am a frequent member of that. Hallelujah.
Because you know what happens in the nap ministry? First of all, you get rest, right? So when you get rest, you are in a better position to hear.
But this is the thing, sis. Before you even get to the point of rest, you have to clear your mind in order to rest. That's the thing. And I think that's why for me, I believe that's why me teaching the culture, not letting the Gullah Geechee tongue die, because you can't let them die, because when you let that language die, and then the culture go, the people go, because they don't want to sound like that, y'all
hear it, right? If she done came out, Gullah Geechee came out.
So it's really important. Like, it took me a minute because they don't teach you your culture.
Right.
So when you start to learn, it's foreign.
That part.
They make it to the point that where you don't even want to associate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, what that is truth to you. Like, how can you? So, they did a good job. Ooh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Because you took a group of people, strip them of everything that they know. And one thing I appreciate about being from Charleston so much is that they did not let it die.
Yeah.
They didn't, even the people in the mainland, because Charleston is considered I took my glasses off, but Charleston is considered like the mainland piece. They didn't let it die. So I can remember being in the front of the church and everybody dressed in white and everybody on their knees and they just going in for hours. Like, I can remember like my cousins being passed over, the casket or whatever. So the spirit, I can remember conversations about, the hag ride you, then we need to pray about you. Oh, a blackbird in your house, somebody about to die. Like, I remember these conversations, right? I remember, somebody in my family getting a package on their front step and they said, call your godmother, like and we call godmother and she tell us, like, these things people don't want to talk about anymore. And she was a devout woman of God. Like, she was, Bible barren. She would tell you. And the crazy part about it, sis, is that all the things people talk about in like Reiki and all this other stuff, she was doing in the Word of God. So it's all in, you can't separate. It's like but I think people are so afraid to be so left. Nobody wants to hear that what you've been preached or taught all these years is wrong.
That's the part right there. Right.
So when you have this, and when you start, it's scary when you start learning new things. But if you just think about it from one perspective, like just, well, this makes sense. Oh, this makes sense. What's up, Charlita? We see you out there. It's like how can you bring it together? And it was a struggle for me for a long time because I thought me representing the Gullah Geechee culture, like the culture was something against my spirituality until I realized that it was all one big thing, that it all kind of is in one big melting pot.
Right.
But we have to be taught that, and we have to be taught that in love. And we have to be taught that in light, because not, it's going to be like this damnation type thing. Like, you bet not do that type thing, because if you do, you going to, and that's not cool. And it scares people. And then we lose the culture.
When we lose the culture, you said, yes. So what I heard you say was folks need to talk. Oh, right. They need to share the information. They need to pass it on in love. And we need to listen. We need to sit at the feet of our elders and of the people who hold this culture. And we need to ask questions.
Yeah.
And this part about, I struggled with this for the longest. This part about not wanting to be wrong.
Yeah.
It's not about not, for me, it's like, if you tell someone I believe in a certain thing, or this is what my culture does, I want to be right. So the part of being right is exploring it, understanding it, going back to it. So let's go back, let's go back to Africa. I'm certain that my ancestors, I think my sister did a thing, trace our African ancestors to West Africa, but I also know I have Native Indigenous, Choctaw, Cherokee, that were right here in America. So,
all black
we were land stewards. For those of us who Indigenous ancestors were here, we were land stewards. They never believed they owned the land, because they didn't believe you could own the land. But we were land stewards. They knew how to really, really, govern or protect the land.
Yeah.
And so they would listen to the birds. They could see the clouds and tell you what was happening with the weather. They could know what the crow meant. They knew what the animals, the buffalo, the white buffalo has returned, and what that meant. So if we understand and we go, why is it every time I go out the house, a crow shows up? Right? But if we could go back,
we would know what that means.
We would know what that means, and we would know where it comes from. And yes, there was a part of our history that was traumatized, and we need to recognize that. There's part of our history that was abusive. We need to understand that, and we need to heal from that. And we need to take back, reclaim what's ours, because what was stolen from us, this idea of culture. If certain people, the Native Indigenous ancestor used to believe that the Black people had the soul, right? If I can remember it correctly, the white people represented the mind, the Black, the soul, the Native Indigenous, I think, was the fire, and then the yellow was the emotions, something like that. I have to go back to my notes, but I remember the white, the mental, the Black was the soul. Mental tells us a lot. It knows a lot, but the soul understands at a much deeper level, right?
Yes.
So when you go through this world and you realize, wow, I know a lot, but I ain't got soul. It's like when a person moves to New Orleans, right? They're like, man, them Indians over there doing this, and they second line, and I don't know how to do that, and boy, I really want that. And then they go and get it, and then they're trying to make it and say it's theirs. And then generations later, somebody go, second line, we used the second line?
Yeah, so, see?
You see how easy it could be to, and I'm not trying to say one, but anyway, you see how easy it would be to take away.
That's what has happened.
On top of it. Yes, it has happened, right? And it is happening.
Exactly what happened.
That is
exactly what happened. We do, and that's why it's so important for the cultural bearers, right? That's why, it's important when the Mardi Gras Indians do go to the community and they're teaching them how to bead, right? I saw Sister Inez just jumped up there, like they do flute. Yeah, Inez and her husband Pierre, they do floats, right? And it was crazy to me when like how you just said, like, oh, that was us who did that. Like we never, like the first thing that my friend told me from out of church, she was like, yeah, I saw the float, the housing float. Like some white lady was up there talking about how it was. I was just like, that's not true. Inez and her husband started that, right? I'm just like, how you gonna like interview the sister? You know, like not her.
Right.
That's
right.
You ain't even painting. You know what I'm saying? So it's like what you so it's like my friend Kia just said culture vultures, and it's just like you don't want us to be equal, but you want everything. Like they got videos and commercials. You don't want nothing about us, but I mean, you don't want us as people, but you want everything that we got to offer. And that's just kind of backwards. But that's why it's important for us. And I saw Mamie said reclaim, for us to take it back. It's up to us.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to teach it, right? It's up to us to grab. I'm working with some youth, some system involved youth. Like they don't know the regular people, right? Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Martin Luther, like that stuff is not how we gonna reclaim something, Miss Mamie, if they don't even know.
Right. And this is the part about the love part, right? Like we just gotta give ourselves a break and just start off with saying there are a lot of things I do not know.
Yeah.
And you give yourself that break and say, there's a lot of things I do not know. Then allow yourself to be guided and to find out.
But sis, we're missing, it's like the youth parents, they don't have it. It's like a generation that kind of just skipped some stuff. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. But it was just like it's like a missing piece. And so we like the ones who understand what light are, right? Like let's talk about, the ones who know the importance of culture, the importance of spirituality in culture, like culture, spirituality, your whatever your indigenous background. That's why I'm talking about Gullah Geechee. That's why I did the kids book, right? So kids can start learning at an early age and be proud of our accent and like our dialect. You know what I'm saying? We used to fight. We used to think that, well, I ain't from no Jamaica. I was like, but we didn't understand. We weren't taught the beauty of the language.
Right.
And so the culture vultures, they don't want you to know that, but they'll exploit it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
They'll want your seagrass, your sweetgrass basket. They would want your rhythm. They would want you to speak something from, so they can write it down and then try to mock you, Anna. They want you to come and tell a story and all that type of day, all of that. But they don't. So it's up to us. All of us who are understanding, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
What it takes to be this light bearer. We all can be light bearers.
Yes.
In our own way. In our
own way. And here's the part where that gap is. This is why we may have to rely on our ancestors. This is where the intuitive side of being connected to something beyond ourselves is going to happen, because they may have to fill in the gaps for what we don't know. Ooh. And I know a lot of people ain't there, so I'm going to get off of there and come back to the 3D.
My God, you starting some stuff, sister. You starting some stuff.
Right. Be open to learning. We got to teach things. We got to know who we are. We need to be proud of who we are. When we really, really, twerking goes back to Africa. Like, don't stop twerking. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't stop. If somebody telling you should be ashamed of something, then that's probably the thing you need to go back and look into. Because
you can identify which part of West you're from based off of the twerking. You know what I'm saying?
Twerking.
I know that I am not a twerker. I am a whiner, right? So we do it wherever I'm from. We did a bunch of whining, right? And so that's what I know, right? So you can definitely identify. You can begin to look at that thing. You know what I'm saying? You can begin to, and like my brother Howard just joined. You know, Howard is the rocket scientist, barbecue guy,
yes.
right?
Yes.
What he has done, he's a Gullah man too. That's my brother.
Yes. Yes. Thanks.
And what he has done is he's partnered up with his dad, right? To create something like when they create these pits, his dad takes his knowledge, no school knowledge of what he knew from just working. The different metals, how to do the heat. And what Howard did was take all of his school stuff, put it with his daddy's just natural ancestral knowledge, right? And create the most powerful barbecue pits that people are trying to figure out. Them culture vultures are trying to figure out, well, how they did that. How they did that. And so that's why it's so important for us to be able to teach and pass down. Because if not, Shalita said, LOL 3D, Lord, say it loud for the people in the back.
To the third dimension. I'm gonna bring you back to the third dimension, because y'all, those of y'all who ain't ready to go and talk to your ancestors, they showing up in your dreams. I already know they've been showing up in your dreams. They've been dropping little hints and stuff. Some of them have reached out and even pulled your ear or touch you on the shoulder, and you think you going crazy. But we ain't gonna go there. I do want to say, Wayne was asking the name of your book. As far as I do not have a book about what I am thinking right now, but I am working on an app. So just be, I'll keep folks about that. But Kyndra, your book. What's your book?
Yeah, so Nubian just said yes, yes indeed, and also the smells, like smells of ancestors as well, like different smells. So she's right on it too. So the name of my book is Who Dem Gullah Ask Princess Anyike. And Princess Anyike means beautiful in Gullah. And what it talks about, it just talks about as kids, the questions that I had as an adult, like, why we do this yet? Like, why we got to do this? Why are we, and nobody really could tell you, because it was just a bad thing. Like Miss Mamie said earlier, to just be Gullah Geechee.
Yeah.
It was just a bad thing, like the dude, what's his name? Clarence Thomas, born and raised in Beaufort, will not speak because people thought he was dumb. I've had people that always got to talk like that, which made me speak clearer. But now I just be letting it roll. My mama said, you got all them degrees and sounding like that. I said, yep. Look, yep, sure enough. And now here she is, tongue just a rolling, just a flat. Or to hear my daddy talk is too funny. I'm gonna record it and bring it back to y'all. But it's just like, so you can get the Gullah. Actually, you can go to Community Book Center to get the
Mama Jen and Mama Vera.
Yeah, Mama Jen and Mama Vera. For those of you guys, you can just hit up lightthevillage.org. Lightthevillage.org, and you can get the book, but it comes with a song. Talk about Geechee Boy. We were playing it earlier today. And it comes with, and my brother Howard put it out there for us, sister. He is like my producer. Like, listen, it's so many. We have to educate not only our younger ones, but us.
Yes.
Like us. That's why the intuitive consultant is important, right? That's why, culture bearers and light bearers are important. Like whatever you find out about your family, like I make sure I got all of my family's recipes, right? So we're like singers and cook, like we're workers, like with our hands. Like a friend of mine, it was a Nubia and I were having the conversation the other night about ladies and women. Because are you a lady or are you my it's women. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like because they did what they did what they had to do to get done. And I'm not ashamed of that. Like I have so many skill sets, right? Because I have strong women in my family. And I'm like, listen, I'm like this. What you say?
Right.
Like what?
Right.
Like what?
Right.
You know?
and here's a thing. Here's an exercise I do in the apprenticeship. Is like I give people a list of things and I say, find out which one of your ancestors will be this. So do it with the people who are alive. Who are the warriors?
Ooh.
Who are the cooks? Who are the fertility goddesses?
Oh my gosh, sis.
The midwives. Who are the protectors?
Come on.
Who was the farmer, the herbalist? Start writing that down and start with your family. Start with yourself. Like, who am I? Then go to your family. Who were these people? And then try to trace back as much as you can. But that's another way, a simple way of really, really keeping this culture alive. My dad is the talker. And you know where I got that from.
My God, it's honest. It's an honest thing.
It's so honest. He is a minister, an elder. He is, he ain't never met somebody. He ain't never met a stranger.
Got you. You've never met a stranger either, though, sis.
No. I am my daddy's child. I own it.
You are your daddy's child. But it's the great thing about what you're saying, though, sis, is that you know where it comes from, right? Yes. And Howard made a really good point. Like, we don't know our own history. And so what I just started doing at like Thanksgiving, and they laugh at me all the time, but I like ask all the different questions. Like at Thanksgiving, like I get the craziest stories of my mom and my aunts and my uncle's childhood, like how my mama pushed my uncle out the car, when they was driving and he fell on. It's just all type of stuff you find out, right? You'd be like, what? Like y'all were crazy, right? So if you just have those conversations, because I think I wrote a song that says, if I knew then what I know now, I would sit at your feet for a little while longer, right? Because, and it's just thinking about elders, if I knew then what I know now, like I would just sit, like just at your feet, so I could just hear it. Because I mean, if we won't be like spiritual or religious, that's what people did with Christ, with Yeshua. They sat at his feet because it was the wisdom that was coming and the wisdom for a lot of Christians that so sustains us today, right? And so sit at the feet, man, at your great aunt, your grand aunt, your mama, all type of stuff.
And then let's talk about Yeshua Jesus for a second. I'm going to bring Jesus into the 3D, talking about my daddy for a second, about me. Jesus ain't never met a stranger. He ain't like, Jesus was talking to any and everybody. They got some folks up there that say you can't go into certain neighborhoods and talk to certain people. Jesus was like right there. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Jesus was Yeshua was always there. You about to, Lord have mercy, got me stuttering. What's up, man? It's good to see you all the way from Canada. Yes, that's not a release song yet, but it will be. Kia's like, is that a release song? I got to get back in the studio.
Right. And somebody was asking about Stephanie is an ancestor proof. I appreciate that. Yes.
Woo! Yes. Let's see. Shalita says she's at the one at every family function when all the questions would lead to all my mama sisters arguing. I'd be like, y'all need Jesus for real, not for play. That's how it be, sis. But that's so amazing because we stopped telling our stories. I don't know what happened along the way, but the culture just got like, I don't know what happened. We just stopped telling our stories. And so for me, like I learned a lot about, I never knew why I would always name things around me John, right? I had a car, it was John Henry. I got a statue, drumming a wood statue, I named it John. And I went to go talk to my cousin Etta, and she was just like, yeah, your Uncle John was out of control. They even said in the casket, he was jumping because he was just a jokester. And I was just like, oh man. So that's that ancestor who he's like a protector for me because he's always around. Like I always hear his name. But it can be scary for those who just don't understand the, dimensions or it just can be a scary thing. So I think we should have a part 2 to this conversation.
Because part 2, I think Wayne's trying to set up a date for that. I'm here for it. There's so much we can talk about. I do want to say though, from a religious standpoint, honor wherever you are, right? So if you're Muslim, if you're Muhammad, if you're, an African spirituality, if it's the Rishas, honor where you are.
Yes.
That is part of owning the culture.
Oh my God, this conversation can go on and on. But look, so Howard says, we are not on the land where the stories are shared. We become too fancy.
Woo!
That's a good one. Nubian also said,
though? Guess what's happening? These ancestors, somebody had an issue today. These ancestors are wanting their stories told so much. People are having physical pain, seriously, because it needs to come out.
Listen.
And that's why you need to tell your story now, and you need to tell their story. So if you got a story in you and you like, I don't know where this story came from, why I've been holding on to the story, it's their story. It needs to come out. Stop holding it.
The earth is shaking, bruh. Like the earth is like, and the earth is just trying to get its ancestors, light, earth, God. Yeah, it's time to become in alignment. Like,
yes,
the earth is aligning itself, and we so silly that we don't even recognize what's happening. It's just like we got. And so let's jump in these comments real quick. Nubian said there are also family secrets too. So not only is the land, we are not even on the land anymore. Like we don't even have the appreciation for land anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's not, like we just tell it, and that's the issue with the Gullah Geechee land. Because the stories, weren't told. Right. And since the stories weren't told, right? Like there is no connection to that ancestral land, like that bloodshed, right? And so when you got people in New York and Philadelphia that say, "Oh, my grandmama land," and somebody offering them $65,000 for bloodland. Oh, girl, blood. It's our blood on that land, girl. That thing it just does something to me, sis. It does, and then we got to nerve to fight over it.
Right.
You don't even want to honor the land.
And that is part of not knowing who we are.
Going back to
ashes, dust to dust. Where you come from. If you follow the story and you believe I'm just going to say, because I know everybody got different beliefs, but if you follow that story and you believe that story, then you know where we came from the dust, from the dirt. We were formed in the image. And so if that is the case, you came from the earth, and yet you don't want to honor what really gave you life.
Listen, that piece, let me tell you, Yanla Van has a statement that I always say: my mind is linked to the mind of the divine by the virtue of my breath. My mind is linked to the mind of the divine so I don't care what type of, whatever you practice, it just automatically says that you have a direct connection to the creator. I don't care what you believe. My mind is linked to the mind of the divine. So anytime it's just like, so if my mind is linked, I have this direct connection, which means people before me have had this direct connection. Like, why are we honoring? I just don't understand. I'm gonna sit down. Let me see.
Yeah, we gotta stop that, because I promise you, look, I am doing a whole thing about the earth as an ancestor.
Period.
Period.
So look. I know my mama. So Shalita, we gonna come back to this. So we might have to come back next week Tuesday, sis. But look, the unresolved issues that we are dealing with now, sometimes within us, have happened maybe 3 to 4 generations ago, and sometimes not even 3 to 4 generations ago. The generation before us. And since people are not dealing with it now, it's going to the generation below us, like right behind. And all of this, girl, we got to go. How many minutes? We got to go. We wrapping up.
We got to go. I just did a sacred conversation with Spirit Grove Healing Cooperative, which I'm a part of. And we talked about what the seed you're planting now is going to have an impact of 7 generations going forward and 7 generations going backwards. So set your mind from 100 years from now, what you do today will have an impact on what happens 100 years from now, even though it still may be felt here in the present. But we're going to end on that. There's some great things coming up with Village Rising, Community Conversation Series, Susan History. I
got my thing too. So look, we got it continues with the journey. Music composer Daryl Levine and his special guest Big Chief Donald Harrison will lead a conversation about ancestors through the evolution of music and culture from Africa to Congo Square. That's tomorrow, right? Yes. And then we also have Susan that's going to be joining us on Thursday. And she's doing her thing. Look, that's right. Ad Henry Media Solutions. That's my girl right there. And so they're going to be
go back to WBOK.
I know WBOK. And so we're going to figure out, we probably will come back next week Tuesday, y'all, but we got to have everybody is talking about a lot of stuff, which the conversation needs to be had, right? About everything. Right. But if we don't begin to talk about us and maintaining and sustaining ourselves from a cultural perspective. And like you said earlier, culture can come across anyway, whether it be rituals, traditions, spirituality, music, herbalism, that whole shebang, right? All of that. Like if we don't start talking about what this is and how we will be, it won't be no need for us to worry about voting. You know what I'm saying? Like, because people will be able to do whatever to us because we don't understand who we are. And what I found is that when you understand who you are, nobody can rock you.
That's it.
Ooh. When you know who you are, nobody can shake that. Nobody can be like, oh, okay, that's how you feel. But I know I know my mama. I know people who I stand on. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not just telling me anything and I'm supposed to fall for it. You know what I'm saying? And so Howard says, great convo. Shalita says she's going to bring some Louisiana hot sauce next time.
Shalita, yes, love you.
And Ashe. And so we're going to continue this, y'all. And if y'all have a particular topic or whatever, and Key, I'll let you know when that song is released, but maybe we'll have that song released for next week because I did that song specifically for the ancestors. You know, I would just sit at your feet for a little while longer because if we don't sit at the feet of our elders who are now, where would we be? You know what I'm saying?
They leaving us, y'all. So we about to become the next. Anyway, we'll talk about this on the next one.
Yeah, we next. We up. We eat. You know, we getting up there. So where will we be, family? Where will we be? And so we need to start having these conversations, and maybe we can bring some elders on here to have that conversation. Right. So I love y'all so much. It's 59 minutes. We did our thing. Village convo. You got Dr. Stephanie Burns.
Thank you, Village Rise.
Where can they find you, sis, if they want to continue this conversation?
Yeah, best thing, you can follow me on Instagram is Steph R. Burns, STEPH, R as in Renee, BURNS. I'm also on Facebook. You can send me an email, stephRburns@gmail.com.
Yes.
Working on a lot of things, including the website. So, but for now, those are ways of staying in touch with me.
Got you. And you can definitely find me at Kyndra Joy. That's KYNDRAJOI@gmail.com. We're putting this work in, family. And so the way that I'm putting this work in is that I got a wellness institute called Gracefully Mindful Wellness Institute. And we're doing retreats. We're talking about breathing and meditation. And because we have to be able to connect. And that's you got to find where you fit in this thing. Once you find where you fit in this thing, like then you go hard.
Yes.
You go hard in it. And so whoever whatever is channeling, wellness is my thing. Light.
Yes.
I'm a herbalist. Men is like it's healing. It's the healing for me, baby.
Yes.
And so we do retreats. We got a retreat coming up in March, another one coming up in August. If you got any questions about it, and we call it Gracefully Mindful because we teach you to become gracefully minded. And that's important, right? And so check us out. We might be back next week, y'all. I think we're gonna be back
next week. And I'm doing an apprenticeship of connecting with the ancestors apprenticeship. The spring one is probably getting ready to kick off, but I need to be next week. That one's almost feel like anyway. But I'm gonna be here, so we'll talk about it. So next week, maybe.
I need to be in that class, sis.
I need to be in the number.
All right,
we'll talk offline.
So yes, so we are here. We will be back. We'll let you know. Just keep looking for the flyers. We'll keep you posted. But until that time, y'all, peace, love, and light, y'all. We out.
Yeah. Thank you, Wayne. Thanks, Village Rise. And thank you, Kyndra.
Thank you, Steph.
This is Gullah tune.